On a stormy night, I picked up a girl covered in blood. I thought it was just a simple act of kindness, but it turned into an inescapable trouble. She was excessively good to me, bringing me food every day and watching over me. My colleague said I had hit the jackpot in romance, but only I knew that her eyes held an undeniable obsession. It wasn't until I discovered those photos under her pillow, the ones with scratched out faces, that I realized this was no stroke of luck. Instead, I had been dragged into a fixation sustained by life itself. Yet, when it came time to push her away, I found I couldn't bring myself to do it. Perhaps I had long become the only lifeline for someone drowning. The rain was so heavy it felt like it could shatter bones. Riding my bike into the alley after my night shift, my headlights swept over the base of the wall, revealing a curled-up shadow. She looked like a rain-battered rag doll, blood seeping into the mud, mingling with the rainwater. I cursed under my breath, but still stopped my bike. "Hey, are you still alive?" Only when I crouched down did I see her clearly. A girl, so thin she was little more than a bundle of bones, her face pale as paper, eyes closed, droplets clinging to her lashes. The smell of blood, carried by the rain, seeped into my nostrils, dizzying. I took off my jacket and wrapped it around her. The moment I touched her shoulder, she suddenly grabbed the hem of my shirt, her grip so fierce it felt like she was digging into my flesh. Damn! I lifted her up. She was frighteningly light, cold as ice in my arms. Upstairs, there was only one rented room. I carried her into the bathroom, tossed her an old towel, and dug out a half-empty bottle of iodine and some Band-Aids. "Take care of yourself. I don't have any other medicine here." I shouted through the door, the rain outside still roaring. I had just collapsed onto the sofa when the bathroom door creaked open. She stood at the door, her hair wrapped in a towel, wearing my old t-shirt that swayed to her knees. Her bare feet were on the floor, toes curled and red from the cold. Thanks." Her voice was as hoarse as sandpaper. She just stood there, staring at me with dark, emotionless eyes. "My name is Zheng Sheng. And you?" "Xiao Un." She squatted in the corner, hugging her knees, and placed the iodine and cotton swabs beside her. "The floor is cold. It's not dirty." Her voice was as faint as a mosquito's buzz. I dug out a thin blanket from the bottom of my chest and tossed it to her. "Sit on this." She rustled as she spread it out and curled into a ball, like a frightened cat. The rain stopped in the middle of the night. I woke up on the sofa with a stiff neck. When I woke up, the corner was empty. The blanket was folded neatly, and the medicine bottle was back in its original place. "It's good that she's gone," I muttered, rubbing my neck. I was almost flattened into a photograph, squeezing onto the subway for work. Just as I rushed to the lobby of my office building, my phone vibrated. A strange number. "Come down." I frowned and ignored it, following my colleagues to the elevator. Old Zheng, over there, literally nudged me with his elbow. Under the shade of the trees to the side of the office building, Xiao Un stood there, holding a thermal lunchbox. She was wearing a washed-out t-shirt, jeans, and a pair of clean canvas shoes. Her skin seemed to glow under the sun, and she was looking down at the tips of her shoes like a lonely blade of grass. The moment I stopped, she snapped her head up. Her eyes were startlingly bright, and the corners of her mouth slowly curled up into a cloyingly sweet smile. "Damn, who's that?" Little teased beside me. "She looks like a high schooler, right? Bringing you a love-filled lunch," a female colleague chimed in. She walked straight towards me, her eyes fixed on me as if equipped with a tracking device. "For you." The thermal lunchbox was shoved in my hands, her fingers icy cold. "I eat at the cafeteria." "The cafeteria food is bad," she said flatly, but didn't loosen her grip. "Yesterday." "Thanks." I took the lunchbox, and her smile deepened. "I'll watch you finish it." My colleague's stares were like needles on my back. I steeled myself and took her to the cafeteria. When the lunchbox was opened, the braised pork ribs were glossy, the vegetables were a vibrant green, and the rice grains were perfectly distinct. "You made this." She rested her chin on her hand and watched me eat, her eyes unblinking, with what looked like two small flames dancing inside them. "You want some?" "I'm full just watching you eat." I ate that meal with a chill running down my spine. I felt like a monkey in a zoo. After she finished eating, she packed up the container. "Brother Sheng, I'll come back tonight." "Don't." She had already run off, her receding figure as light as a gust of wind. From that day on, she appeared downstairs at my company on time every day. In the morning, she brought soy milk and steam buns. At noon, she carried a thermal lunchbox. In the evening, she waited for me to get off work. My colleagues all got to know her, calling her Xiao, and when they saw her, and praising her for being well-behaved and sensible. Old Zheng, what kind of luck have you stumbled into? Xiao Zhang clapped me on the shoulder. Only I knew how terrifying the look in her eyes was when she looked at me. That day, Xiao Zhang jokingly tried to peek in her bag. The moment her eyes shifted to him, the coldness in them made him freeze on the spot. My hair stood on end, but I couldn't say anything. Her kindness to me was all-pervasive. Knowing I had a bad stomach, the soy milk she brought every morning was always warm. Knowing I worked overtime, there was always an extra portion of food in the thermal lunchbox. I once mentioned casually that I wanted to eat wontons. The next day, she was standing in the rain, holding the thermal lunchbox, soaked to the bone. The wontons inside were still steaming. Why didn't you get out of the rain? She smiled, wiping the water from her face. I was afraid they would get cold. I took off my jacket to give to her, but she clutched it and wouldn't put it on. Don't get cold, Brother Sheng. At that time, I didn't realize this wasn't sensibility at all. It was an obsession etched into her very bones. At night, I locked the door and was preparing for bed when a faint scratching sound came from outside. Brother Asheng, it's so cold out here. Her voice was on the verge of tears. Can I come in? I frowned through the door. Don't you have a place to stay? I'm scared. Stop messing around. Go back. The scratching stopped, and after a moment, I heard suppressed sobs. Annoyed and restless, I lay on the bed, tossing and turning. At 1 a.m, there was another noise outside. This time, it was the sound of extremely soft breathing. I sat up abruptly. What on earth do you want? I just want to be a little closer to you, Brother Asheng. Her voice was trembling badly. Just for one night, okay? I sighed and opened the door. She stood in the doorway, her eyes red, like a little puppy soaked by the rain. Come in. You can sleep on the sofa. She smiled immediately, her eyes frighteningly bright. Thank you, Brother Asheng. From then on, she came knocking on my door every night. At first, I resisted, but later, listening to the sound of her breathing outside the door, I slowly got used to it. She slept on the sofa. I slept in the bedroom, with a door between us. Sometimes I would wake up in the night and see her sitting on the sofa, staring at my bedroom door in the moonlight, motionless. I pretended not to see, but my heart grew heavier. She started to meddle in my affairs. When she saw me discussing work with a female colleague, the next day, a dead mouse appeared on that colleague's desk. When she saw me answer a call from an unknown number, she would secretly write it down and tell me the next day that it was a nuisance call. She even asked, "Who is it?" when my mother called. "Xiaoan, this is my business." She lowered her head, twisting the corner of her clothes with her fingers. I'm afraid someone will bully Brother Asheng. No one is bullying me. Yes, there are. She suddenly looked up, her eyes flashing with a paranoid light. They all want to take Brother Asheng away. I was startled by her. You're overthinking it. She didn't speak, but just edged closer to me, like a small animal seeking shelter. That night, I worked overtime until late. While I was heading back, I saw her downstairs, struggling with a man. The man, wearing a black jacket and a fierce expression, growled, "Run. Let's see how far you can run." Xiaoan clutched her bag tightly. "Let go of me." I rushed over and pulled her behind me. "Who are you?" The man looked me up and down and sneered. "So you're the wild man she's hooked up with? Watch your mouth. Kid, don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong. This is our family business." The man reached out to grab Xiaoan. I shielded her more protectively. "If you have something to say it properly. What's the meaning of getting physical?" The man, angered by me, threw a punch. I couldn't dodge it. My face stung with a fiery pain where he hit me. "Don't hit Brother Asheng." Xiaoan suddenly screamed and lunged forward, grabbing the man's arm and biting down hard. The man howled in pain and shook her off, cursing, "You crazy bitch." He looked at me, then at Xiaoan with her reddened eyes, and spat on the ground. "You two are something else." With that, he turned and left. Holding my face, I looked at Xiaoan. Her eyes were red-rimmed as she grabbed my arm to check on me. "Brother Asheng, does it hurt? I'll put some medicine on it for you." "Who was that man?" Her eyes flickered. "Someone I know. Shaolin, what's really going on? She lowered her head, her voice muffled. He's my dad. He always hit me. That's why I ran away. I froze, remembering the first time I saw her, covered in blood. My heart clenched as if squeezed by something. Then from now on, I don't want to go back. She suddenly grabbed my hand, her grip frighteningly strong. Brother Ashung, don't send me away. I'll be so good to you, better than anyone. Her eyes were filled with fear and pleading, like a drowning person clutching at their last straw. That night, I let her sleep in the bedroom while I took the sofa. I woke up in the middle of the night to find her standing by the sofa, gazing at me in the moonlight with a complicated expression. She gently reached out her hand, as if to touch my face, but withdrew it just before making contact. Brother Ashung, she whispered softly, you're mine, only mine. I kept my eyes shut, pretending to be asleep, my back drenched in cold sweat. I knew something was off about her, but seeing her like that, I couldn't bring myself to tell her to leave. She started clinging to me even more. She followed me to work, followed me when I ate, and even waited outside when I went to the bathroom. My colleagues' looks grew increasingly strange, and some asked me privately, Old Jung, is that little sister of yours a bit? I could only brush it off with a laugh. One day, the company had a dinner gathering, and I drank a bit too much. I was dizzy on the way back. Shaolin supported me, muttering the whole way, why did you drink so much? And does your head hurt? When we got home, she busied herself wiping my face and fetching me water. Lying on the bed, watching her back, I suddenly felt exhausted. Shaolin, She turned around, her eyes bright. You can't keep doing this. The smile on her face froze. Brother Ashung, what do you mean? You need to have your own life. You can't keep revolving around me. Her face gradually turned pale. I don't want my own life. I just want to be with Brother Ashung. That's not possible. Why not? Her voice trembled. Haven't I been good to you? I listen to everything you say. Why do you want to send me away? I'm not sending you away. I just want you to. You don't want to send me away, she suddenly screamed, tears streaming down her face. Is it because of that female colleague? Did she say something to you? I knew she had bad intentions. This has nothing to do with anyone else. It does. She grabbed my arm agitatedly. They all want to take you away from me. I won't let them succeed. The obsession in her eyes seemed to overflow, and I was terrified by her intensity. Calm down. She suddenly broke down, crying so hard her whole body shook. Brother Ashung, don't abandon me. You're all I have. She cried so sorrowfully that my anger instantly vanished, replaced only by heartache. I'm not abandoning you, I sighed. But you can't keep acting like this. She slowly calmed down, leaning against my chest like a wounded kitten. I'll listen to Brother Ashung. She seemed to have changed a little after that. She stopped following me around every day and was no longer hostile toward my colleagues. But the way she looked at me was still just as clingy. She started looking for a job and found one as a waitress in a small restaurant. Every day, she would bring me little snacks when she came back from work. My boss praised me today, she said with a smile, her eyes shining brightly. That's great. Watching her get better bit by bit, I had an indescribable feeling in my heart. I was off that day while she went to work. I decided to tidy up her room a bit, but under her pillow, I found a stack of photos. They were all pictures of me. There were photos of me at work, of me eating, and even of me sleeping. What terrified me the most was that in any photo that included other people, their faces were violently scratched out. Some were covered in crisscrossing scratches. Others were punctured with several holes. My hand holding the photos couldn't stop trembling, and a chill ran down my spine. So she hadn't changed at all. She had just hidden her obsession deeper. When she came back that evening and saw the photos in my hand, her face instantly turned pale. Ashung, what is this? My voice was strained. Her lips trembled as tears rolled down her face. I was just afraid they would take you from me. So you did this? I can't lose you. She threw herself at me, crying, Ashung, you're all I have. Please don't leave me. I pushed her away. Looking at her tear-stained face, I felt a mix of anger and pain. Shaolin, this is wrong. I know I was wrong. She grabbed my hand. I'll change. I promise I'll change. Just give me one more chance, please. Looking into her pleading eyes, I finally nodded. Perhaps I really am her only salvation. From then on, I started trying to guide her. I introduced her to my friends, telling her that not everyone wanted to hurt her. She was very resistant at first, holding my hand tightly, her eyes wary. Slowly, she seemed to relax a little. Seeing me joking with my friends, she would secretly smile. Once, a friend treated us to a meal, and she took the initiative to pour drinks for everyone, although her hands were still shaking. Shawan is getting better and better, my friend said. I looked at her, my heart warm. She would still cling to me, would look at me and giggle foolishly, would save all the good things for me. But the paranoia in her eyes faded, little by little. In its place was more and more tenderness and reliance. That day, the storm started again, as heavy as the first time we met. She leaned in my arms, watching the rain outside the window. Brother A. Shum, thank you. For what? Thank you for not giving up on me. I held her tighter, silly girl. In fact, I should be the one thanking her. It was she who let me know how warm it feels to be cherished so deeply. Although her methods were once so extreme, that love was incredibly sincere. I know the road to her salvation is still long. But it doesn't matter. I will walk with her step by step. Because from the day I brought her back, she was already my responsibility, my soft spot, and also the only light for the rest of my life. In the 3rd month after Shawan found a job, she started to learn how to use the kitchen in my rented apartment. That day, when I came home from work, the aroma of scallions and soy sauce greeted me the moment I opened the door. She was wearing my old, faded apron, standing by the stove and stretching on her tiptoes to reach a plate in the overhead cabinet. The heels of her canvas shoes were worn and crooked. Brother Asham. When she turned her head, the tip of her nose was dotted with flour, like a little mouse caught stealing food. I made your favorite scallion oil noodles today. Steam rose from the noodles in the pot, where vibrant green scallions floated in a soy-colored broth, topped with a fried egg with golden, crispy edges. I walked over to help her get the plate down. As my fingers brushed the flour from her nose, she flinched, her neck shrinking back as her eyes curved into crescents. The restaurant owner taught me today. He said you have to simmer the scallion oil over low heat to make it fragrant. She presented the noodles at the table as if offering a treasure, the chopsticks laid out neatly. I tried 3 times. The first time it burned. The second time I added too much salt. I took a large bite. The fragrance of the scallions mingled with the savory soy sauce, so hot it numbed the tip of my tongue, but a warmth spread through my heart. She sat across from me, her chin propped in her hands, watching me eat. Her eyes sparkled as if they held stars. It's delicious, I mumbled. Her face suddenly flushed, and she lowered her head, picking at the tablecloth. Then, I'll make it for you every day from now on. From that day on, the kitchen light was always on late into the night. She would head straight for the kitchen after coming home from work. The clatter of pots and pans, mixed with the hum of the range hood, became the liveliest background noise in my apartment. She had a bad memory and always mixed up the seasonings. Salt for sugar, vinegar for soy sauce. Every time she made a mistake, she would just stand in front of the stove in a daze, her eyes rimmed with red. I would wrap my arms around her waist from behind and swap the wrong seasoning for the right one. She would then lean against my back and say in a muffled voice, "Brother Ashung, I'm so stupid." "You're not stupid," I would say, gently squeezing her earlobe. "This is much better than takeout." She started secretly writing down recipes in a small notebook, filling it with her crooked handwriting. She drew a little bottle next to the word for soy sauce and a little square next to the word for salt. One time, I found her crying over the recipe book, saying, "Why can't I remember any of it?" I snatched the notebook from her and drew a smiley face after each recipe. She looked at it and began to smile, a tear falling onto the page and smudging the ink into a small dark blot. The day Shawan got her first salary, she pulled me along to the wet market. The market, at 7 in the morning, was crowded with people. She was wearing a new light blue jacket she had bought, clutching my hand tightly, like a little deer afraid of getting lost. The auntie selling vegetables smiled and teased, "Young man, you're so lucky. Your girlfriend is so pretty." Her face instantly turned beet red. She buried her head and hid behind me, but her hand gripped mine even tighter. I smiled and chatted with the auntie, catching a glimpse of her secretly looking up from the corner of my eye, the The corners of her mouth pursed in a smile. She bought pork ribs, saying she wanted to make sweet and sour pork ribs. She bought green vegetables, saying she wanted to stir-fry them. When she saw the strawberry stall, her eyes lit up, but she pulled me to keep walking. Want some? I stopped. She shook her head. They're too expensive. I pushed her in front of the stall and picked a large box of the reddest ones. Boss, weigh this. She anxiously tugged at the corner of my shirt, whispering, Brother A. Sheng, don't buy it. On the way back, she held the strawberries, her steps so light it was as if she were dancing. When we reached the old locust tree at the street corner, she suddenly stopped, stood on her tiptoes, and fed the reddest strawberry to my lips. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, landing on her eyelashes as if coating them in a layer of gold. The light in her eyes was brighter than the sun, filled with careful anticipation. Is it sweet? Sweet. I took a bite. The juice from the strawberry dripped to the corner of my mouth. She reached out and wiped it away with a pad of her finger. Her fingertip was soft, carrying the fresh scent of strawberries. That night, she washed the strawberries and arranged them on a plate, placing them one by one in neat rows. I ate two, then pushed the rest towards her. But she fed them into my mouth one by one, saying, they're only sweet if Brother A. Sheng eats them. Moonlight shone through the window and fell on her face. She smiled like a child who had stolen candy. I suddenly felt that although this rented room was a bit small, because of her, it had become a home. When autumn came, a new scar appeared on Xiaowen's wrist. She came back from work that day with her sleeves rolled up high, gauze wrapped around her wrist, blood seeping through. I grabbed her hand, my voice changing pitch. How did this happen? I was careless when I was cutting vegetables. Her eyes darted away, and she tried to pull her hand back. I lifted the gauze. The wound was deep, the edges jagged. It didn't look like it was from cutting vegetables. Tell me the truth. She bit her lip, and tears started to fall. That man, he came to the restaurant looking for me again. I got cut by glass when I was running away. It was her dad, the same man who had hit her downstairs last time. A fire ignited in my heart. I grabbed my jacket and started for the door. I'm going to find him. She held on to me desperately, her whole body shaking with sobs. Don't go. Brother Sheng, I'm begging you, don't go. He'll hit you. I can't just watch him bully you. I'm not afraid. She wrapped her arms around my waist, burying her face in my chest. As long as I'm with Brother Sheng, I'm not afraid of anything. Looking at the wound on her wrist, my heart felt like it was being sliced by a knife. That night, I changed her dressing. She trembled from the pain, but bit her teeth and didn't make a sound, just clutched my hand, her nails digging into my palm. Tell me if it hurts, I said, my voice hoarse. She shook her head and smiled a little. It doesn't hurt when Brother Sheng changes my dressing. From then on, I walked her to work and picked her up every day. Her colleagues all said her boyfriend was so considerate. She would always blush, stealing glances at me, the sweetness in her eyes nearly overflowing. One day, while picking her up from work, I saw her dad squatting by the restaurant entrance. I shielded Xiaowen behind me. He stood up, reeking of alcohol, and glared at me. Hand her over. She's not going with you. I clenched my fists. She's my daughter. He reached out to grab Xiaowen. I shoved him away. He staggered back a few steps, then charged at me, cursing. I didn't fight back. I just protected Xiaowen. He hit my back, my arms, his fists as hard as rocks. Xiaowen screamed and threw herself in front of me, shielding me with her body. Stop hitting him. I'll go with you. You're not going. I pulled her behind me and looked at the man. If you dare touch her again, I'm calling the police. He was probably intimidated by the look in my eyes. He cursed a few more times and walked away, still muttering. I turned around. Xiaowen threw her arms around me and cried, her tears soaking my shirt. Brother Sheng, does it hurt? It doesn't hurt. I stroke her hair. From now on, I'll be here. No one can bully you. She looked up, her eyes red. Suddenly, she stood on her tiptoes and kissed the corner of my mouth. It was a very light kiss, like a feather landing on my heart. I froze for a moment. Her face turned completely red, and she buried her head, not daring to look at me. I smiled, pulling her into my arms, resting my chin on the top of her head. Silly girl. Winter came unexpectedly. The rental apartment had no heating and was as cold as an ice cellar at night. Shaoan gave me all the thick quilts and covered herself with a thin one, curling up into a ball from the cold at night. I pulled her into my arms. She snuck in like a little kitten, her hands and feet icy cold. Cold. She snuggled deeper into my embrace. I held her tighter, warming her with my body heat. Go to sleep. She nuzzled against me in my arms and soon fell asleep, her breathing light and tickling my neck. I lay with my eyes open, looking at the ceiling, listening to her breathing, feeling a great sense of peace in my heart. On Christmas Eve, the company gave us a half day off. I went to the mall and bought her a scarf, a red one, like the strawberries she loved. When I got back, she was putting up paper cuts on the window, stars and moons she had cut herself, crooked and lopsided. Seeing me return, her eyes lit up. Brother A. Sheng, look. They're beautiful. I wrapped the scarf around her neck. The red made her skin look even fairer. She touched the scarf and smiled, revealing 2 small dimples. Thank you, Brother A. Sheng. That evening, we had hot pot. The small electric pot steamed, piled high with cabbage, meatballs, and tofu. She kept putting food in my bowl, but ate very little herself, her eyes fixed on me with a smile playing on her lips. You eat too. I put a meatball in her bowl. She took a small bite and suddenly said, Brother A. Sheng, will we always be like this? We will. I looked in her eyes, always like this. She smiled, the light in her eyes warmer than the steam from the pot. At 12 o'clock, fireworks went off outside. Colorful lights shone through the window, landing on her face. She leaned against the window watching, her finger drawing something on the glass. I held her from behind, my chin resting on her shoulder. Brother A. Sheng. She turned around, her eyes sparkling. I used to think that just living was so hard. After meeting you, I realized that life could be this sweet. She stood on her tiptoes and kissed my lips. Brother A. Sheng, I love you. My heart felt as if it had been filled with something warm and swelling. I lowered my head, kissed her lips, and said softly, I love you too. The fireworks outside continued to bloom. The small heater in the room gave off warmth. Her hand held mine tightly, as if holding the entire world. At the beginning of spring, the owner of the restaurant where Xiao and worked gave her a raise. She came skipping back with the pay slip and held it up to me. Brother A. Sheng, look, that's great, I said, ruffling her hair. She suddenly blushed and pulled a small box out of her pocket. I bought you a present. It was a black lighter with my name engraved on it. I don't smoke, but I put the lighter in my pocket and held it tightly. I know you don't smoke, she said, a little embarrassed. I just thought it looked nice. I like it a lot, I said with a smile. That day, we went for a walk in the park. The willows had budded, and the lawn was a vibrant green. She wore a light-colored dress and ran ahead, her skirt fluttering like a butterfly. I chased after her and took her hand. She turned her head, her smile brighter than the sun. A child ran past with a bubble machine, and colorful bubbles floated in the air. She reached out to catch them, and they popped at her fingertips. She giggled. Brother A. Sheng, look, she said, pointing to a kite in the sky. It's flying so high. Let's buy one too. We bought a butterfly kite. She held the spool, and I held the kite and ran. When the kite took off, she cheered and jumped, the spool spinning rapidly in her hands. The wind blew her hair across her face. She turned to me and smiled, the light in her eyes brighter than the kite. That night, she leaned against me and said, Brother A. Sheng, I want to save money. Let's buy a bigger house. Okay. It has to have a big kitchen, so I can cook for you every day. Okay. And a balcony filled with flowers. Okay. She looked up and kissed my chin. Brother A. Sheng, thank you. For what? Thank you for taking me in. I held her tighter, my heart feeling as if it were filled with honey. Actually, I was the one who should be saying thank you. Thank you for being a ray of light that shone into my ordinary life, letting me know that loving someone could be such a warm thing. The day we moved into our new home, the sun was exceptionally bright. The house wasn't big, but it had a large kitchen and a balcony. Shaoan, wearing a newly bought apron, bustled about in the kitchen, humming a tuneless song. I was planting flowers on the balcony when she ran over, holding 2 freshly bloomed roses, and tucked them behind my ear. So pretty, she laughed, bending over with amusement. I pulled her into my arms and kissed her on the forehead. Stop messing around. She wrapped her arms around my neck, her eyes sparkling. Brother A. Sheng, let's get married. I froze for a moment. She grew a little nervous, clutching my clothes. You don't want to. I smiled, lifted her up, and spun her around. I do, of course I do. She laughed so hard in my arms that tears came out, pounding my shoulder, put me down. The wedding was simple, with just a few friends and colleagues invited. Shaoan wore a white dress, her hair neatly combed, a touch of shyness on her face, but her eyes were fixed on me, as if filled with an endless affection. When we exchanged rings, her hand trembled so much that she couldn't get the ring on my finger several times. I held her hand, helped her put the ring on. She looked up, tears falling. Brother A. Sheng, I'm so happy. Me too. Our friends cheered for us to kiss. I lowered my head and met her lips. Sunlight streamed through the window, falling upon us, warm and gentle. That night, she leaned in my arms, her fingers tracing the ring, and whispered, Brother A. Sheng. I used to feel like an unwanted weed, ready to be blown over by any gust of wind. After meeting you, I realized I could also be cherished in someone's hands. She looked up, kissed my lips. From now on, I will be good to you, and I will love you well. Me too. I held her tighter, my chin resting on the top of her head. For the rest of our lives, please guide me. The moonlight spilled in through the window, casting a glow on her face. She slept peacefully, a smile on her lips. I looked at her, my heart overflowing with happiness. Salvation is never a one-person affair. I saved her, and she saved me too. We were like two intertwined plants, putting down deep roots in each other's lives, growing towards the sun together until the end of time.